Our winter break was very hot and cold. Literally, it was 60 degrees one day and a 10-game losing streak the next. Hello, I'm Gia Lancey.
And I'm Tyler Small. That 10-game losing streak made for a blue, crisp, no more Christmas music. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. Men's and women's basketball had a difficult slate of games this winter break. We'll hear from Josh Abrams and Sean Kelly to see how they fared.
And later, we'll break down B.J. Johnson's big game off the bench for the Orlando Magic, including lockdown defense on LeBron James.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
For number 1, freshman Claire Jacobs earned the Atlantic 10 Rookie of the Week award for her 2 performances against UMass and St. Bonaventure. First against UMass, Jacobs dropped a career-high 29 points off 12 of 18 shooting, including hitting 5 three-pointers. She added 1 rebound, 1 assist, 1 block, and 1 steal to round out her performance. Against St. Bonaventure, Jacobs put up 16 points, then brought down a career-high 8 rebounds overall. The Australian native shot a fantastic 53% from the floor and 83% from the line. This was her first weekly award to the women's basketball program since February of 2018.
Number 2, freshman Jerica Lufrano was named to the Atlantic 10 Conference Rookie of the Week. Lufrano claimed her first collegiate victory on Friday at Fordham's Robert Elkin Invitational. She took the crown in the mile, defeating 7 competitors and finishing with the 3rd fastest time in the A10 this season. The freshman also helped with the 4x400 meter relay finish in 3rd. Her great start to the track season came after an impressive cross country, where she earned Atlantic 10 Most Outstanding Rookie Performer honor after playing 9th out of 131 runners at the A10 Cross Country Championship to help the Explorers win the title.
And at number 3, Shalina Miller joins Amy Griffin and Susie McCaffrey as the only players to total 500 points and 500 rebounds and 100 blocks in their LaSalle career. Miller also took over Griffin's block record, beating the former record of 151 on Thursday with a 2-block performance.
Yeah, I know we're going to talk a lot about women's basketball today and just basketball in general. It's going to be definitely a big episode for that. But it's definitely something to note that women's basketball specifically, is 2 out of the 3 of our top 3 this episode.
Yeah, no, it's really great to see. And of course, at the top of it is the superstar Claire Jacobs. Just coming in as a freshman, coming with her sister Amy, Claire has been a walking bucket, basically. And I think that she is a gem that still hasn't been polished off yet. I think that in Mountain's era, who she, with her 29-point performance I said earlier, was the highest under Mountain's coaching in his past 2 years.
Right.
I think that McGilvery has a great challenge with her, but at the same time, he's going to have an excellent chance to really polish her off, as I said, and really make her a complete player. She can attack the rim, she can shoot from the outside, she can shoot off the dribble, she can shoot from mid-range, and she gets it done at the free throw line. She is going to be special for this Explorers team.
Yeah, I hope she stays here all 4 years, but I think she's going to be killing it if she does, and probably one of the all-time greats if she stays. So, and the track team is just continuing their dominance. So
yes,
good.
As always, coming from a great cross-country season. Now, let's see what they'll do on the track.
Yep.
We missed quite a bit of basketball over the break, so let's welcome SportsLine correspondent Sean Kelly to take us through the winter action.
The LaSalle men's basketball team has been dominating the court over the course of the holidays and a much-needed turnaround since starting the season last year at 0-10. The Explorers faced 10 teams since our last episode of SportsLine. The Explorers continued their non-conference play as they took on head coach Ashley Howard's alma mater, Drexel, on December 7th. 5 Explorers scored in double figures, which was led by junior David Beatty with 14 points and Saul Peary with 12 points, and claimed a victory over the Dragons 71-63. The Explorers returned home to Tom Goal Arena after nearly a month of away games and welcomed Morgan State to North Philly on December 14th. D scored a career-high 31 points and Beatty had a personal best 18 points. Beatty's performance in that game included a huge transition dunk that made it on ESPN SportsCenter Top 10 Plays, landing at the number 4 spot. The Explorers claimed the victory over the Bears 85-68. The Blue and Gold were looking for 3 straight wins as they welcomed Wagner to Tom Goal Arena on December 18th. Junior Scott Spencer had a career-high 17 points, and Shaggy D's contributed 13 points and claimed their 3rd straight win over Wagner, 74-60. The Explorers continued their stretch of home games and looked for a 4th win in a row as they took on Fairleigh Dickinson on December 21st. Christian Ray scored a career-high 15 points, and Croswell registered his 4th double-double of the year with 18 points and 15 rebounds. The offensive performance helped the Explorers get their 4th win in a row over FDU, 66-58. LaSalle rounded out non-conference action as they welcomed Bucknell to Philly on December 28th as the Explorers used the Palestra as their home court. A career-high 16 points for sophomore Jared Kimbrough and a total of 23 turnovers committed by the Bison helped the Explorers finish non-conference play with a victory 71-59. The Explorers finished non-conference schedule with a 9-3 record, which marks their best 12-game start since the 2012-2013 season. LaSalle began the A-10 portion of their schedule as then number 20 ranked Dayton visited Gola on January 2nd. Freshman Ainde Hakeem helped get the Explorers jump into a lead early in the game, but the Explorers could not keep up with Dayton's pace as the Flyers snapped the Explorers' winning streak with a score of 84-58. The Explorers hit the road once again to take on Fordham on January 5th. Spencer and Dees each shared 13 points to help the Explorers win over the Rams 66-60. The Blue and Gold traveled north to take on UMass on January 8th. D scored 25 points and earned 9 rebounds throughout the contest, but it was not enough for the Explorers as they fell to the Minutemen 77-69. LaSalle looked to add another win to their win column as they hosted George Mason. Senior Saul Peary led the team with 19 points, but it was all Patriots as the Explorers dropped the contest 76-63. The Blue and Gold continued A-10 play as they traveled to Rhode Island. After a 14-point second half deficit with the Rams taking advantage, the Explorers managed to sneak ahead by 1 point, but their comeback fell short as the Rams narrowly defeated the Explorers 66-63. That's a look at the men's basketball recap during the 2019-20 winter break. I'm Sean Kelly, and we'll send it back to the desk.
Yeah, so now we have Sean sitting with us, so we're going to just talk about it a little bit. So what are the biggest positive takeaways you guys have thus far this season?
I think the takeaway that I found was what I basically talked about in my recap about like how we started our best season since probably like the 2012-2013 season. I think with all the players that are playing like in the non-conference, I think it really set the ground as to like how the season is going to look. So I think like the non-conference for the Explorers shaped out to be really well for the season.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was a little strange last year, really struggled with out-of-conference play, and then when conference play hit, that's really when the Explorers took their stride. So now it's kind of been the opposite. The Explorers had a lot of success before the A-10 play started, but that could be attributed to many things, but I think above all else, it shows how strong the A-10 is becoming. I mean, Dayton has a chance this March Madness to get up to a 3 seed, in my opinion, which is going to be huge. And other teams around them, like VCU coming into town, we'll talk about in a little bit. They're a very
Rhode Island.
talented team. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So plenty good coming from the Explorers, and it's just going to be a big upcoming week of games to try and get back competitive in the A-10.
Yeah, and I mean, is there some key players you guys think like absolutely have been killing it more recently or throughout the whole season? What do you guys think?
Absolutely. I think a couple of players that I think are some of the key takers from the season. First one I believe is Ainde Hakeem. He's one of the players that I think plays great basketball. He drives to the basket almost every game. He's the one who attacks the basket aggressively throughout each game and puts all of his effort into all these games. And another player that I really like to watch is Ed Croswell. He's been racking up the stat sheet with points and rebounds. He's been getting double-doubles almost every game.
Definitely fun to watch.
He's a definitely fun guy to watch, especially getting those rebounds and trying to get the putback in. He's out there on the court. He's really dominating the court this season.
Yeah, Ed Croswell, I mean, we talked about him last year having a huge freshman year, but I want to talk a little bit about Hakeem. He leads the team in steals. He's very active. He's probably the most athletic player on this Explorers team. The only thing that they have to work with, I was saying about Jacobs, how she's an unpolished gem. I think Hakeem is as well. He has 47 turnovers this season, which easily leads the team, even though he doesn't have a start, which means he sometimes just goes a little bit too fast for himself and too fast to hold on to the ball. But at the same time, I think that athleticism can be huge coming off the bench, especially. He's more athletic than the tired secondary or fresh legs that you're getting off the bench.
Right.
But he's going to be huge, and he can always knock down an outside bucket too.
Yeah, I agree. even with the amount of turnovers he's had so far this season, I see a bright future in him as an explorer. Like the next few years are probably like the best years for him as far as like the stats go with points and rebounds and stuff like that. He's got the potential.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think definitely that this is a really hardworking team. Like I think I've seen in my 4 years here, there's definitely been some lazy players, and you could tell.
Yeah.
And I think that can attribute a lot to Coach Ashley Howard, but I think that they really want to work hard. And I mean, I know it's still a young team, so like they know that they have to put in the work so that they can get there. But I think that I've seen it a lot this season.
Of course.
And you know, I think that they got their confidence knocked down a little bit with conference play starting, but that's going to happen. So.
Yeah, and the other thing you see from it is we're giving so much love to the younger guys here, but also look at some of our returns. I mean, Isaiah Dees taking over for Pookie Powell as the leading scorer, that was a big task. Pookie Powell was huge for the team last year. Fury leading the team with 40% three-point field goal percentage. I mean, it's also been some of these returning classmen who got a year with Howard and a couple of years in the blue and gold. It's just been huge for this Explorers team, for the youth and just for overall.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks, Sean. The women had a similar game-filled break. SportsLine correspondent Josh Abrams is here to give you the recap.
Women's basketball experienced rough times over their winter break. The weeks leading up to it weren't pretty either. After defeating UMBC 74-58 at the Navy Classic on November 30th, LaSalle rattled off 10 consecutive losses ranging from Big Five opponents to conference play. The streak started in Annapolis with a 61-46 loss to host Navy in the Navy Classic Championship game, followed by a tough 65-49 defeat versus visiting UPenn. Against Navy, sophomore Kayla Sproul led the Explorers in scoring with 14 points. Senior center Shalina Miller took charge of the glass and offense in the loss to the Quakers as she led all Explorers with 11 points and 12 boards. The next two games for the Explorers would be ones to forget. The first one was a 70-43 crushing loss to a now 12-win Rider team. An odd 10-day break in their schedule may have contributed to a sluggish 69-31 defeat at the hands of Drexel. In the loss against the Broncos, junior guard Deja King stepped up on offense with 12 points, while freshman forward Jordan Lewis led all Explorers with 11 rebounds. Lewis also led the Explorers with just 8 points in what was more than an offensive struggle versus the Dragons. Before starting up conference play, LaSalle was tasked with two very tough and familiar Big Five matchups in Villanova and Temple, both games at home. After scoring 31 points on just 28% shooting from the floor and 10% from three against Drexel, the Explorers improved significantly on offense by scoring 69 points against both Philly rivals. In the 77-69 loss to the Wildcats, freshman sensation Claire Jacobs led all Explorers with 25 points. She didn't stop there in the 72-69 heartbreaking loss to Temple, scoring 19 points, while twin sister Amy dropped 15. Atlantic 10 play has not been kind to the Explorers either. They have suffered multiple blowout losses to top-ranked Dayton, St. Louis, Duquesne, and UMass. But hope there is. The losing streak finally came to an end on Sunday when the Explorers took down visiting St. Bonaventure 67-61 on national television. You can thank Claire Jacobs yet again, who unsurprisingly paced LaSalle with 15 points. That's going to do it for this women's recap. Let's send it back to the desk.
Yep, so now we have Josh here sitting with us, so we'll talk a little bit about the women's basketball team. So, I mean, they had such a hot start to the season, and it was a 6-game win streak, and they were killing it. Penn State, big win there. And then they just kind of lost it, and they definitely couldn't get back to it with conference play. They had one conference win so far, which was just last week. So how are you guys feeling about this season?
Well, look, I mean, you look at that Penn State win, you might overlook it. It's a Big Ten win. It was considered a huge upset. But
Right.
Penn State women's basketball isn't necessarily the powerhouse Big Ten school that comes from that conference.
Right.
Nevertheless, it was a good win. From there, really, as I said in the recap, ever since their win against UMBC, they just haven't figured anything out. I mean, and it's not like, and they're losing games in every sort of fashion. You know, they're getting blown out by conference teams, top-ranked conference teams. They're struggling to come out victorious against teams from outside the area, and they can't beat the Big Five schools. It was pretty much a given that the two games against Villanova and Temple would be close. It was an 8-point and 3-point defeat, respectively, but it still doesn't make up for the fact that a loss was added to the column. They just can't really figure it out right now, and I don't know what it is. I part of me thinks it's because of just the youthfulness of the team. I mean, I know players like Shalina Miller and Deja King and To some extent, Kayla Sproul, they've been here at least one full year, but you know, our most productive players on offense right now are the Jacobs twins. And obviously, they're rookies, they're freshmen, they haven't been here long enough to really know what it's like to play college basketball. So it's, you know, it's tough times right now.
Yeah, and well, let's just get one thing straight. I mean, for McGilvery and Howard even, it's really tough, especially in your second season, to sustain that winning, to really put your teams out there and get consistency day in and day out, to really buy into the system, especially when last year, I mean, we saw it both wasn't their recruiting classes. That makes a big difference, and you've already seen that from the jump because you have players that went here for this coach. So that's just something big, but you're 100% right. I mean, we can't talk about the Jacobs sisters enough. I've talked a lot about Claire Jacobs before, but Amy Jacobs doesn't get enough love that she really deserves. I mean, she, as I said earlier, is a deadly catch and shoot person. She has 27 made threes on the season. That's only 2 behind Claire Jacobs. So she's really been huge this season for this team. And then, but you also talk about it the other way. Sometimes you have those upperclassmen who don't buy into a new coach's system, and I feel like that might be happening for Shalina Miller. I mean, Shalina Miller's out there for 20 minutes a game, and she averages 4 shots a game.
Yeah.
That's probably just a part of the game plan, though. I don't think Shalina Miller is really going to be a central figure in an offense, really, because she's specifically very good at being that defender down low. Like, she's tall. She's 6'2", 6'3". She can she can defend the taller girls, but you're not going to be looking for her to score 10, 12 points a game. And really, it's a good offensive game for her when she leads the team in scoring, and that happened in one of the games.
Yeah.
And it does. But that was more of a consistency, whether you talk about last year or not, if you want to bring so many things back from last year. I think one thing is that she was a more significant scorer last season. And once you look at it this year, I don't know why you wouldn't build it around there. You know, I mean, I get that they want to be a run and shoot kind of team. They're very good off the fast break, and somebody that's huge at that is Jordan Lewis. I mean, she's on the floor every minute. She's a great hustle player, but I think that you should use Shalina Miller more.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, that's all we have for our basketball teams, but how did other LaSalle sports fare? Find out after this quick break.
According to the Mayo Clinic, exercising has stress-busting benefits by bumping up your endorphins and improving your mood.
Welcome back. With basketball recaps out of the way, let's check out how the other teams did in the last few weeks. The men's track team had a good showing at the Penn 8 Team Select Meet, garnering 2 first-place honors and a number of top 10 finishes. Redshirt senior Nathan Gillis led the blue and gold in his season debut, snagging a win in the 800 meters in a field of 42 runners. Fellow Explorers senior Anthony Hawthorne followed close behind, finishing 3rd. Not to be outdone, Dennis Manea also brought home a gold for the LaSalle, earning top honors in the high jump with a leap of 2.05 meters. This was Manea's 2nd straight high jump win. The junior won at least one event in each of the first 3 meets LaSalle has competed in this season.
Women's track started off their season over winter break with a Haverford holiday meet. The team compiled 8 wins, with senior Jessica Bryant taking the long jump and triple jump. LaSalle swept the meter dashes along with the mile run from Sammy Miller and sophomore Leah Sassman, who took 1st and 2nd respectively. The Explorers began the indoor season with the Robert Elkin Invitational. The team picked up 4 wins out of 3 coming from the underclassmen. First up is Jerica Lufrano and sophomore Liz Mancini, who took 1st and 2nd in the mile run. Next up, Elle Mancini won the 3,000 meter run with a time just over 10 minutes. The underclassmen were not done there, as freshmen Teresa Richardson and Olabi C. Adams took first in the triple jump and second in the long jump respectively. Finally, the women's competed in the Penn's 8-team select over the weekend. Lufrano was the highest placing explorer in any of the events as she took 8th in the 800 meter.
Men's swimming and diving season is back in full swing for the spring. After capturing 2 wins over winter break, the men returned with a 3rd straight win after taking down Loyola this past weekend. Notable performances came from senior Christoph Raz, along with sophomores Zachary Wilbert, Ian Venter, and Steven Sassola, all of whom took home multiple wins. LaSalle took home a total of 13 victories at the meet. Wilbert was the leading man for the blue and gold, emerging victorious in the 100 fly and the 200 fly. Freshman Cole Dyson led the rookie class with a win in the 1,000 free and placing 2nd in the 500 free, with a perfect 3 and a 0 record in the season so far.
Over the break, the women's swimming and diving competed in 4 meets. Of those 4 meets, the Explorers picked up 2 W's against Monmouth and Loyola, while dropping 2 against Fordham and Richmond. Freshman Tony Rafferty led the way for one of the LaSalle wins against Monmouth, picking up gold in 3 events. Ann Moser chipped in with 2 top-place finishes of her own. On January 18th, the Explorers had a double meet and Fordham and Richmond. Sophomore Sarah Rosetto clinched gold with a first-place finish in the 200 free, while Moser picked up another gold, this time with the 1,000 free. Sadly, their efforts weren't enough, falling to Richmond 187 to 112 and losing to Fordham 206 to 92. The Explorers' last meet of the break was against Loyola. Moser continued her dominance, placing first in the 500 free, and right behind her was freshman Nina Kolingi, taking silver. Rosetto took home gold in another with a win in the 200 back by almost a 5-second margin. Emily Wolbert, Bryn Peterson, Tony Rafferty, and Phoebe Shea also placed gold in their respective competitions, and LaSalle beat Loyola 178.5 to 121.5.
That's all we have for recaps, so we do have one more special story for you. Class of 2018 alum BJ Johnson got a call up from the Orlando Magic to start 2020. In his first game, Johnson made the only shot he took against the Washington Wizards in 6 minutes of action. The next 2 games, the Philadelphia native did not see the court as he did not play due to coach's decisions. Johnson found his breakout role in a game against the top Western Conference team, the Los Angeles Lakers. Johnson played 23 minutes, including a steal on 8-time All-Star Dwight Howard that he slammed down on the fast break. Johnson also found himself defending the 3-time NBA champion and 4-time MVP LeBron James, including the final shot of the game in which James missed. Johnson missed the Orlando Magic game against the Charlotte Hornets due to personal matters. Later in the day, Johnson announced the birth of his first child. We have one last break, but when we come back, we'll check out this week's Explore Report. Stay tuned.
Sun of fire and beauty, destruction and life. Something so magnificent you can't even look at it. My sun of fire and passion, life until death. Something so magnificent you can't look away. Maybe because we don't look at the sun, we are afraid that we might not be able to let go of the beauty that just might end up destroying us.
Here are some sports events happening in the upcoming weeks. On Saturday, men's and women's swimming has senior day as they'll take on Seton Hall.
The women's basketball team continues their efforts to turn the season around with 2 home games. First on Sunday, they host the final Big Five rival, St. Joseph's Hawks, at 2 p.m.
On Wednesday, the Tom Goal Arena will be busy as we have our first doubleheader of the year as the women's basketball team takes on George Mason at 5:30, followed by the men's hosting of St. Louis at 8 p.m.
Saturday is jam-packed with the Explorers as LaSalle will be inducting its newest class into the Hall of Athletics during halftime of the men's basketball game against VCU. For more on this game, we welcome Josh Warner for this week's Explorer Report.
Thanks, Gia. For this week's Explorer Report, LaSalle men's basketball will host the VCU Rams on January 25th at noon in the Tom Gola Arena. The Explorers come into the game 10-8 overall with a 1-5 record in the Atlantic 10 after a 4-game skid. VCU brings a 15-5 record with a 4-2 conference record, winning the last 2 games against Saints Bonaventure and St. Joe's by double-digit margins. The Explorers will look for senior Isaiah Shaggy Dees and sophomore Ed Croswell to step up in this game to win. Dees leads the team with 12 points per game, while Croswell leads in rebounding with 8 points per game. Croswell needs to stay patient to stay out of foul trouble, as he will be primarily defending the Rams' biggest threat in Marcus Santos Silva, as he leads the Rams with 13 points per game and 9 rebounds per game. Make sure to wear your gold, as Saturday is gold out. If you can't make it, the game will be broadcasted on NBC Sports Network.
Thanks, Josh. Yeah, so it's definitely going to be a tough game between VCU. They've made it to March Madness the past few years. They have definitely a better strength of schedule. So.
Yeah, the only thing that you can kind of harp on is that VCU is only 3-2 away from home, while LaSalle is 5-3 at home. So kind of similar records, but because VCU is just 11-1 at home, they've been unbelievable. But their strength of schedule, like you say, has been a lot more impressive than us for out of conference. 4 games against ranked opponents and they won one of them is huge.
Yeah. So we'll move on to our picks. So I have VCU winning 76-70. I think it's going to be a similar game just because they do have kind of similar records. So, and I think LaSalle will step up. And Josh's pick, he thinks LaSalle's going to win 67-64. Also a close game, it looks like. So.
Yeah, and then as you see at the bottom, I also picked VCU 81-69. I think it's going to be a bigger margin, unfortunately, but LaSalle's been very good at closing out games strong, so I think they'll close the margin a little bit.
Yep. Well, that just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with this weekend's other sporting events by visiting goexplorers.com or check out this week's edition of The Collegian.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on Twitter at SportsLineLTV. We welcome you to send your thoughts and suggestions there. This week's poll question is, which is better part of a PB&J sandwich?
Peanut butter or jelly? But
thank you.
For Sean and our SportsLine team, I'm Gia Lancey.
And I'm Tyler Small. Thanks for joining us, and as Ed Ogeron would say, go Tigers. Go Explorers. We'll see you at the game.